Welcome to Real People, Real Business. My name is Izu Nwachukwu, and this is my podcast. On this podcast, I like to bring in entrepreneurs based in the UAE, and I want them to tell us their stories so that we can all learn from how they became successful in their businesses and ventures. And I also want them to tell us what the challenges are so that those of us in our businesses who face challenges can actually learn how they overcame them, gain from their wisdom, and we can all be inspired to be successful in our businesses. On today's podcast, I have an amazing gentleman. He is the founder and CEO of UAE African Networking Group and Stenhouse and Associates. He's an award-winning business facilitator. He's an entrepreneur. He's an author. He's into logistics and infrastructure. And he's worked, where hasn't he worked? You know, he's worked in the USA, he's worked in UAE, GCC, Africa, Europe, and East Asia. Dr. William Stenhouse, welcome to Real People, Real Business.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It's an honor.
No, absolutely. It's great to have you. So, William, you and I have known each other for a while now, and I've known you as an amazing connector of people, facilitator, and you're an American. You grew up and built your career starting out in the United States before you moved to the UAE. I want to know how that was for you starting out your career. You know, what inspired you to start out in logistics? What inspired you to start out in your ventures in the UAE in the States before moving to the UAE?
So I think my career, my journey started back home in the East Coast of the U.S. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My uncle was probably one of the biggest traders in my community, and I basically had my own business from the age of 14. So I was washing cars in the neighborhood. You know, I would shovel snow, make a lot of money, and then I would do what we call vending for my uncle. So that was incense, that was earrings, that was T-shirts, that was jeans, that was all of that. So I did that, and then I started working for McDonald's at a very early age, 16. I had a job at McDonald's, and there was another clothing restaurant in the same mall that I was working called Gene West. Then I ended up working there as well. So I've been an entrepreneur. I've been somebody who's just been very enterprising, if you would. Yeah. I left home at the age of 17, and I got to travel the world. I've been very fortunate. You know, the company that I was working for, I got to go live in Europe for about 7 years. I went and lived in Japan for a year, lived in Korea and some other places as well. So so that's how my journey started. I got into logistics at a very young age. I started from the bottom. I mean, I started working in the warehouses. I drove trucks. I mean, the big trucks and forklifts, doing inventory. And I built my career all the way up to senior level director, and then senior vice president. So, I had an illustrious career. It's been amazing.
Fantastic. And you know, when you started out in logistics, you started at the bottom.
Correct.
How did you map out your path to being a VP of a large corporation? You know, did you envision this and say, I'm going to build it this way and, you know, within these timelines? Or did you have people supporting you? Did you have connections, networks of supporters to get you all the way up there?
Absolutely. I would be amiss if I didn't mention the mentors that I had throughout my career. There were gentlemen who pulled me aside and said, look, we see a lot of potential in you. You've got what it takes to be successful. Stay focused. Here are some of the things that you can do to advance your career. And I've taken that same principle and given back even today. You know, helping mentor young SMEs, young startups, to help them to get to the next level. I've gained a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom over the years throughout my business career. And the same principles that were applied to me, I now apply to others. I think it's incredibly important to help people get to the next level.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. Having mentors to guide you through those principles and support you, and just having someone that mentally checks in on you as you kind of either build your career or build your business. Having people that advocate for you, especially those that work in large corporations, just having someone that sees the potential in you and support you and guide you through, because they've been through it, is really important. And I find out that some people tend to just want to kind of do it all on their own. I'm going to put my head down, do my work, and my work speaks for itself. And I found out the hard way that doesn't work. So I do have my own mentors and I do have my own advocates. And I, just like you, I mentor people. So I think it's extremely important, that people start to look at others they can trust, and it's a sharing of knowledge, right? We're helping each other out, along the way. Great. So you started your career in logistics and infrastructure. So that was your kind of you cut your teeth with that. And this got you to travel around the world. Now, I know you have a very, very strong affinity for Africa. Was it through logistics and infrastructure? Was that what got you into Africa? And was that where you started to get your interest in African projects?
So I'll take it back to our community. I mean, I grew up in a home that was very pro-African, pro-Black. And I've always had what we say knowledge of self and where we came from. And so it wasn't foreign for me growing up. Fast forward to my career in the Middle East. I worked for a large logistics company for almost 16 years. And the last 5 years, I was selected to be part of a team that had a mandate to expand into Africa, a $5 billion mandate, where we went in and we bought land, acquired the land, and planned out and executed the phase 1 and phase 2 of industrial parks in countries like Ghana, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Mozambique, Senegal. And then some other locations that we were looking at as well. And so I think that was a pivotal moment for me. I felt like, I've arrived. I've traveled all over the world. I had not spent considerable amount of time in sub-Saharan Africa. Right. And I remember the first time I touched down in Ghana, I kissed the ground because I realized, that I felt like this was home for me.
Come home.
Yeah. It was definitely a pivotal moment and probably going to be a part of my next book that I'm going to write. Right. But anyway, so very quickly I understood that, I had a privilege and working for a $7 billion company and also having the blue passport, that I could hover over, the geopolitical, the tribal, the whatever was separating the different entrepreneurs, different companies, or whatever, different situations on the ground, and where I could actually make a difference. Right. And so I think that's where the affinity came from, really knowing that I could make impact and influence and then change lives. And so that's where the journey began. I mean, from early years, but fast forward to, my first trip to Ghana, I think it became pretty apparent that this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right. And, when we had the sort of pre-interview and the conversations earlier, you did mention that you had some projects which were sort of charity projects that you built up in terms of having schools for girls. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and how that's doing now? Because, you mentioned that this was kind of a legacy you wanted to leave behind.
Correct. I think legacy starts with consistency. One of the things that I've always done across my career is build community. I mean, it just comes from my roots. But in Ghana, I had the fortunate opportunity to be in charge of our CSR program.
Right.
And where I was responsible for about 50,000 US every year.
Right.
Where we could use that for education, if you would. So the first year, we actually spent 70,000 on a program out of the UK. I won't mention the name. We got positive results, but it wasn't the results that I felt that we should have been able to get, and the level of impact. So I pitched to create our own, take a space and create a vocational training center there in our warehouse park. We offered 3 courses, and we got the students from the local community.
Right.
I think if I remember, we graduated 80 students.
Okay.
And from the 80 students, 80% of them are currently employed, still employed.
Fantastic.
And 20% of them, I would say, are unemployable. So it's just one of those things. But that program is still going on.
Right.
And now it's actually graduated hundreds of students, and where they've actually have, real jobs and real employment, which is very, very important. And a lot of these African countries, we see what I call certificate factories. We didn't want to create that. We wanted to create something that they could actually benefit from, but also at the end to be able to have real employment. And that's what's really required.
Yeah, fantastic. No, I totally agree. So another question. Have you done your ancestry? Do you know where in Africa you're from?
Yes, I did my ancestry.
And tell me it's Nigeria.
Yeah. So, it says West Africa. I'll just say that.
It has to be Nigeria. We're gonna give you a Nigerian name from now. You're gonna be Igbo. I'll call it Chike.
Don't do that, man. I don't want to choose between the jolloфs, please.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's another entire war. But yes,
absolutely,
Nigerian jollof is the best.
Yes,
keep it that way.
Yes. Pepper.
But so no, this is amazing. So you have this interest in Africa. You invested in CSI. Leaving people with skills behind that can actually make a difference in their lives. And then I think soon after that, you moved to the UAE and pretty much started your own entrepreneurship journey. What was that like? Did you face any challenges or difficulties coming up to set up your own entrepreneurial businesses here?
So during my career with the large logistics company, I did the project in Ghana that I just spoke about, but I also started something called the UAE Africa Networking Group.
Right.
Started in 2016 on the sidelines of the annual investment meeting here in Dubai over breakfast. And as I traveled across the continent, I realized there was a big gap between the African business market and the UAE business market, and one that I could actually fill or help fill. And one of my roles and my duties was to help UAE businesses get into Africa through our platform, through our infrastructure, and help them. We called ourselves a safe pair of hands, where we help them. Excuse me. We help them with their legal, with their banking, with their taxes. Setting up their offices, business setup, the whole 9 yards. And so it became apparent that African businesses needed the same in the UAE and in Dubai. Excuse me. And so I literally started connecting people. Both in both directions. And so I decided to have this breakfast to introduce, almost 40 Ghanaian businesses to, a number of businesses here, and it worked. And I think initially in the first year, we actually was able to facilitate about $300 million worth of deals, just in a matter of a few conversations and introductions. Fantastic. And so fast forward to COVID, something that was basically that I did twice a month over breakfast actually became a full-fledged business, a full-fledged community, a full-fledged organization where we started to do programs and initiatives online. Something we're quite proud of is iWin, Inspiring Women in the Network, where we took 42 women across the continent and the UAE. We help upskill and upscale their businesses during the total lockdown. And I'm proud to say that 7 of those businesses actually have products here in the UAE today. And then 2 of those businesses through this program have products on Amazon in the U.S. today.
Right.
So quite proud of that. And then so many other initiatives that we do, and really about changing narratives and really about creating legacy for many of our SMEs and many of our businesses and many of our members who are part of our great network.
That's fantastic. It's great news. In the midst of COVID, where we know that, everything was pretty much at a standstill, you were
Correct.
still able to take African businesses and branch them out in terms of their products into the UAE and the US market. So that's amazing. And so, this under the UAE Africa Networking Group, you're trying to facilitate small businesses, trying to help them scale, trying to get them into new markets. What is the major challenge that you face? Because it's never going to be that easy. A lot of people like to talk about we've achieved that, but nobody sees that 75% of the iceberg that was a challenge to actually reach some of the goals. So what were the major challenges you faced with getting this UAE Africa Networking Group off the ground and trying to get these women or these businesses into different markets? I'm sure it was not as straightforward as you've made it sound.
Well, mindset. I mean, people's mindset, here I am, an American, doing Africa-centric business and changing narratives for the continent. This is one. So perception is also, why am I doing it? What's in it for me? That kind of thing. But also scale. I think scale has been a bit difficult for me as well, because these type of initiatives, this organization requires resources. It requires, support, funding. We've got great programs, and also visibility. I mean, we're doing a lot of things on the ground in the UAE for UAE businesses, for African businesses, and we do the hard work. And opportunities like this where we get to tell people our story are important for us, because whoever's listening to this podcast, maybe they may reach out and say, you know what, how can we help? How can we support? I think it's important that we get a bit more visibility in all the great work that we're doing. Yeah. But it's a passion project also. It's something that I love to do. Yeah. And I live a very purposeful life, and I think this is part of my purposeful life journey. And when I look back on all the things that I've been involved in, things that I've done over my career and over my life, I think this is by far one of the greatest achievements and one of the greatest things that I've ever been a part of.
Fantastic. So you mentioned 2 things, and before I go into that, again, to whoever's listening out there, if you feel like you want to support, small businesses, you're welcome to reach out to William and support where you can. But moving on, and again, I just want to focus on you a little bit more. You've mentioned passion. This is a passion for you, and this is a purposeful life. I find that, for me, I think what drives me when I wake up in the morning for my own ventures is I have a purpose. I have, this is what I want to achieve over the next 5-10 years realistically. And, things might come at you and, but I don't get lost in the wind of it all, because I'm like, that's the purpose. That's the goal that I want to reach, whether it's, I need to establish XYZ business, so I need to live a certain lifestyle. What does that mean for you, a purposeful life? What is this passion that's driving you?
I think it's quite simple. I think it's inert. Everybody has something that motivates them. Maybe it's money. Maybe it's family, making your family proud. maybe it's a sense of community. And I think for me, it's probably all three.
Yeah.
But also impact. I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave something behind that my 8-year-old daughter can carry on, and she's a part of that today. I think living a very purposeful life also comes with a lot of responsibilities. It comes with a lot of hard work and a lot of effort and a lot of focus as well. And I'm driven by it. I really am, and it's something that I believe something that someone said. Find your passion, find your purpose. You know what I mean? And I think it's just that simple. It's not rocket science. Yeah.
Fantastic. Great. So I also know you're an author, and you co-author.
Yes.
Right. So you've got a book called Titans of Africa.
Yes.
And your book is again helping to change the narrative around business people in Africa.
Correct.
And helping to showcase these Titans of Africa in the business community. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about the book?
Very good. So I have to give credit where credit is due. Thank you.
By the way, this is the book, guys.
Yes, absolutely. So the publisher of the book, Mr. Vikas, approached me almost 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago. Time flies. And he had this idea of creating the giants of Africa. And so we went back and forth about the idea and the project. And I was very intentional and very clear about, if I'm going to be a part of this, then it has to be at a certain standard. Because one of the things that I find void and absent in Africa is our ability to really market ourselves and tell our stories. And so if I was going to be a part of it, one, it would be UAE based, because you being Dubai based, being UAE based gives you an international platform with over 200 nationalities here. I think it's incredibly important to use this platform to amplify and echo the message we're trying to do. Second thing is, it had to be a very, very high class and very bespoke project. The finish, the work, the craftsmanship, the stories, all of that. Thirdly, it had to be delivered one day, one night, very elegant, bespoke place where we could actually launch it in the right way, and where we could celebrate African excellence. So this book is simply stated, it's this particular one is 25 stories of success, culture, and excellence. Really that simple.
And these stories, 25 stories about specific individuals who you're calling Titans of Africa, and you do this every year. You tell 25 stories of 25 business people. So how do you get to select these 25 individuals every year? In case someone is looking to feature in your book, what criteria do they need to meet to become a Titan of Africa?
Well, very simply put, Titans of Africa, when you look at it, you think this is somebody that's, well established, very rich, quite successful. But each one of these people are on a journey to success. It's not the end. When you look at someone like Dangote, this man is a billionaire. He's very successful.
So you're talking about Dangote, the Nigerian tycoon, who's
correct,
labeled the richest man in Africa.
Exactly. When you look at that man, he's very rich, very successful. What more can he do to prove himself? But he continues to raise his own bar. He doesn't stop. So similarly, I wanted to be able to tell these 25 unique stories of success that other people won't tell. As one example, one of the gentlemen that we selected was, quietly doing projects across the UAE. He's from Cameroon, and he was actually the project manager for one of the telecoms here, for the implementation of 2G, 3G, and 4G. He was the project lead on that. If we don't tell that story, nobody would ever know. And there's countless of other stories. And so, yes, the first one that we did was the Dubai Expo Commemorative Edition, the one you just showed. The second one we did is the Golden Edition, where we told 50 stories of success, culture, and excellence. The third one that we're working on is the Global Edition, and we are aligning with people of African descent across the world. African Mexican, African Brazilian, African Iranian, African Indian. Anyone that has a success story that has an African lineage, then we are including them in our next book. So that's what this is all about. It's telling our stories.
Telling the story. Amazing. And like you said, it kind of aligns with what I'm doing here with Real People, Real Business. We want to tell stories of SMBs and entrepreneurs, and it's amazing that someone's also looking at African contribution from a global perspective.
Correct. Absolutely.
Commend you on that. So with all of this going on, you've got your business facilitation going on. You've got the UAE Africa Networking Group. You've got Stenhouse and Associates. How does marketing play in all of this? How does it, you've also talked about getting a bit more exposure. So
Correct.
How do you see marketing playing a role in getting your business out there and supporting your business?
Well, something I've said previously, business and marketing and PR used to be who knows who you know. Networking was about who you know. Now it's about who knows you. It's changed. And so how do you get people to know you? You got to get out there. You got to do things like this. You got to do podcasts. You've got to do radio. You've got to do television. You've got to be visible. Social media is so powerful. LinkedIn, stories, videos, blogs, all of these things are incredibly important. And get out and network and meet people. Dubai is such a dynamic city. It's the whole world ascended recently on Dubai during GITEX. Get on these stages, and so people get to know who you are. So you got to market yourself. And I tell African businesses and businesses who want to be associated with Africa, you have to be relative, number one, and you have to be associated with a brand or an organization that can get you in places that you want to be.
Absolutely.
So I think that's incredibly important.
Okay. Fantastic. So we're coming towards the end of the episode, but there is a section which is where you share your wisdom. So I have 3 questions for you.
Sure.
So the first one is, looking at your entire illustrious career and the journey that you've taken, what was the most surprising thing that you learned about yourself?
Resilience. How resilient I can be. COVID changed everything for me personally and professionally. And it's been over 3 years now that COVID has come and gone, but it's been a pivotal time for me. And I think, had I not had those earlier years of hustle and struggle and, being resilient, I don't know if I could be as strong as I am today. And let's face it, the world has changed. You cannot do business the way that you've done business before. You have to change how you think, and you have to adapt. I often talk about that. And so I think adaptation and also being resilient are some of the I think 2 of the most important things that you need to really make it in today's business world.
Okay. Resilience and adaptation.
Absolutely.
And a lot of entrepreneurs I speak to say the same thing. You've got to be able to adapt, because life would throw it at you. And
Correct.
So you've got to be able to learn how to change and adapt.
Correct.
The second question is, what do you consider to be success, specifically to yourself?
Very good. Me sitting in front of you and you asking me about my life and my career is success. You know, the fact that I have come to a point where I'm interesting enough to be interviewed on a podcast in Dubai by yourself, I think is success. But I think success is measured by different people in different ways. You know, I look at my family and I look at my children. They're all successful. For me, that's the ultimate success. They're not in jail. They're not on drugs. They have their own businesses. They're running. Their lives are great, and they're doing extremely well. That's success. That's one man's version of success. Having $1 million in the bank, you know, or $1 million in investments, that could be considered success. I think there's no one true there's no one true definition of success. But I also believe success is a journey. There's toll booths of success, but there's not one stop that says I've arrived. I don't think there's no such thing.
Yeah, because we're always evolving, right? What
Correct.
I thought to be successful 10 years ago, I look back and realize, okay, it was just the start of another journey. So we're always evolving. Our needs are always evolving. And like you said, sometimes it's not necessarily the money. It's you look at your family and say we're all doing okay. So it makes perfect sense, you know. Okay, and then the final question is, what advice would you give to others who are in similar position yourself, or what kind of learnings can you impart on people who are thinking about starting their own entrepreneurial journey, or who have started their journey but maybe they've come to a roadblock? How would you advise them?
So I'll say we have something called SME in the Box. It's one of our initiatives, one of our many initiatives. When you look at SME in the Box, it's literally that. So one is, I don't have anything. I don't have a license, but I cook really good food. And I serve it from my home. So, and I make decent money from it. The second one is, I actually have a license. I'm actually in this business. But I don't have an office. I don't have a website. I don't have a pitch deck. I don't have all of that. That's another stage. And then we have another one that says, I have a license, but I don't know what I should be doing with this license. I just have it. It's like it was like a toll booth. It's something people have come to and they say, I want to have that. And that's a matter of an achievement. And then there's the ones who have great ability and they just need an idea. And so we're able to put them in 4 different businesses, one around coffee, one around flowers, the other one is travel, and then one more. So I'll say for entrepreneurs, it really depends on what stage that you're in when it comes to the advice that I would give. But in all of this, I will say, entrepreneurship is not for everybody. It's not for everybody.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think, if you really want to know whether you're an entrepreneur or not, you probably should be listening to Vusi, from South Africa. He's probably one of the best, measuring sticks when it comes to being in business. But I think it's incredibly important also, as I said earlier, to have a mentor, somebody who can help you get through tough times and who can advise you where you are in your business. You need someone who, I'll call them a consultant, but a consultant should be someone who actually takes you somewhere, not just advises you. Okay. Consultancy is really about advice, but with action. And advisory with action, not just a consultancy. So, and always study the market. Global markets, I said earlier, adaptation is very important. Global markets are shifting. Local markets are changing. Rules are always changing. So you got to stay abreast of all of these dynamics to be successful in your whatever business that you're in. But you can also reach out to me, and I'm sure you're going to share my details. I'm happy to help and assist and mentor young entrepreneurs who are really trying to figure it all out. I've been there, done that. And if I can help, then we've got over 12,000 members who specialize in probably something that you're trying to do. Okay. And that's another reason I do a lot of these events, you know, these networking events where I bring people together, the experts and the ones who's trying to figure it out. And, you know, and that's how we add value to the community.
Connect people.
Absolutely.
So essentially understand your market, you know, as an entrepreneur, understand
Correct.
What's happening in the market.
Very important.
Find a support structure of mentors and, like you said, consultants or coaches who can actually help you take
Correct.
action.
Correct.
Find networking groups or, you know, work with specialists like yourself.
Correct.
You know, where people can kind of get you moving along.
Correct.
So essentially, it's not just thinking about doing it all on your own. You know,
Absolutely.
Looking for people who you can rely on, either as support structure or even professional services.
Correct. And also you need to sell your product also.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. If you're not selling, what are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
William, thank you so much for coming to the show, and thanks for sharing your wisdom with us and your story.
You're most welcome.
Really appreciate it. And I'll be looking forward to your next networking event. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic.